Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm sorry for the delay, but Mazel Tov, my son Swilly got engaged today to his Kala, Shifra from Teaneck, and we had the Chaim today in Eretz Yisrael. Um, Mazel Tov. So it's been a little busy of a day, but the shiur must go on, and we must continue learning a Perek a day. So can't go to sleep until the Perek is the shiur is done. That's what we're doing right now. Um, may the schus or the kfiyas to learning Torah every day be a be a schus to the young chassid and kala to build the bayis them at Yisrael and a zivig yafa and build the house on true foundations of avodas Hashem, the Torah, and the siyas mitzvahs, and together bring the Mashiach. Amen. Okay, today's shiur is Yilei Nishmas Michal Yosef ben Nachum David and Aaron Nachum and Simcha Kohen, Shul Mordechai ben Shepsel, Bracha Sarah Shmuel Lev, Moshe ben Yosef, may the Neshamas have an aliyah. And before Shlema for Adar Sarah Basleya, Chada Pesach Yanta Yisrael ben Rachaleya, Racha Bas Pesach Zelda, Arvim Yitzchak Berisha, Chaya Bas Doba Bela. Before Shlema B'so Shachar Yisrael. Okay, today we are learning Perek Vav of the Pesachim, Shnais Pesachim. So yesterday we started learning about the halachos of Korban Pesach, and we're continuing that. So it starts off Ela Devarim Pesach Adocheles Shabbos. These are the things in the avoda of the Korban Pesach that overrides the Shabbos restrictions. Meaning, if Erev Pesach is on Shabbos, and then you have to do the mitzvah, you have to do the Korban Pesach that day, much like bris milah, which is on the eighth day, which is on Shabbos, has to be done that day, right? So some things cannot be postponed or done early. For example, shchita, so slaughtering the korban, zrikas dam, throwing its blood on the wall of the mizbeach, cleaning out the intestines from all the feces, hector chalavov, and burning its fats and bevarim on the mizbeach. So since all these things are specific for Erev Pesach itself, then they are done even when Erev Pesach is on Shabbos. Avos Yosef Hadachas Kravav Einan Dochen Shabbos. However, roasting its meat and rinsing its intestines to clean them thoroughly do not override the Shabbos, because they can be done after Shabbos. Segue to a different topic off of the Pesach, but also related to things being done for Shabbos. Hakafta v'havasa, because some, you know, sorry, I'm totally off base. I'm a little tired. Continuing with the topic of Pesach. However, carrying the korban through a Shus Harabim to the Beit Hamikdash, or bringing it out of the Tchum, v'chatichas yibalta, or cutting off its wart to make it fit for to be a korban and dochas Shabbos. Those do not override Shabbos because they can be done before Shabbos. Um, then they cannot be done on Shabbos. Excuse me. Rabbi Lezer Omer Dochen. Rabbi Lezer says that these activities also override the Shabbos restrictions. According to Rabbi Lezer, just as the service of the actual Boda of the Korban Pesach can be done on Shabbos, so all the preparations can can also be done on Shabbos, even though they could have been done earlier, but they don't have to be. Mishnah Beis, Amar Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said, "Hello, Dinhu cannot be proven by the following logical argument that carrying a korban to a public domain or bringing it from outside the tchum or removing a sport are permitted on Shabbos. Ma'im shkita shehi mishum malacha dochas Shabbos. For if shetim a korban, which is an act that involves a malacha doraisa overrides the laws of Shabbos, elu shehi mishum shus lo yitchos Shabbos. Then should these acts, which involve only rabbinic decrees, only gezeres derbanan, should these not surely override the halachos Shabbos for the sake of the Pesach? Rabbi Yeshua said to him, Yom Tov Yechiyach. The laws of Yom Tov will show that this is not a valid argument. Shehitiru bo mishum malacha. For the Torah was matir preparing food on Yom Tov with activities that involve malacha d'oraisa. Asur bo mishum shvus. Yet the Chachamim answered certain activities that involve gezeres derbanan, even for the sake of food. Clearly, the fact that Isuri Doraisa may be lifted does not prove that that Gezeres Derbanan are also lifted. Therefore, with regard to the Pesach, just because a Melacha Doraisa is mutter does not necessarily follow that other Melacha Derbanan would also be permitted. Amlo Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said to Mazi Yoshua, what proof is this Yoshua? Ma'rai Yoshua is the mitzvah. What proof can there be from an optional activity to a mitzvah? True that some activities involving exeris derbanan are usher even for the sake of preparing food on Yantif. But that's because eating on Yantif is only an optional activity. This does not prove that such activities are forbidden for the sake of bringing the Pesach, which is a mitzvah. Pesach Rabbi Akiva responded to Rabbi Lezer and said, Hazah tochiach, the law of sprinkling mechatas on a person who's tamei will show that your argument is not valid. When a person needs to be sprinkled with mechatas on their Pesach, shehi mitzvah, that then the sprinkling is a mitzvah because it enables him to become Torah and bring a Korban Pesach. Mishum shvus, and it involves only a rabbinic decree, and a dochas Shabbos, and yet it does not override the halachos of Pesach. This shows that we do not override a derbanan, even for the sake of mitzvah. Therefore, you too should not be surprised that these chanas for calling the Korban Pesach, afa pishem is mitzvah in shvus lo yitzchu as a Shabbos, even though they involve a mitzvah and they are prohibited only by a rabbinic decree, will not override the halachos Shabbos. I'm a little bit. That's related to Rekiva Balei in regard to this very law of sprinkling the mechatas can make the same logical argument. Sorry, I can't even see straight. In regard to this very law that's sprinkling mechatas, I can make the same logical argument. In his opinion, sprinkling mechatas does override the laws of Shabbos when needed in order to bring a Pesach, based on the same argument that he used to prove the other preparations for the Pesach override the laws of Shabbos, so as follows. Slaughtering the Korban Pesach, which involves the biblical malacha, overrides the laws of Shabbos. Hazar she mitzvahs, Hazar mishum shus, eno din shiyid as a Shabbos. then it is not logical that sprinkling and mechadas, which follows the Perek decree, should surely override the halachos Shabbos for the sake of the Pesach. You cannot dispute my argument for the law of speaking in his terms. Halachically, you cannot dispute his argument for the law of speaking mechadas because I disagree with you regarding that very law. Okay, Lord Akiva said to Eliezer, "Oh, Shila, perhaps we should reverse your argument. I read as follows: and not even has he Mishum Shvus Emadochas Shabbos, speaking mechatas, which invokes only a their then because their Rabbanan does not override the laws of Shabbos. Shchita shehi mishum malacha eodim eodim shelo tidchas Shabbos. Wow, I can't keep my eyes open. This is geschmack. Not that is not so. Again, a sprinkling mechatas which involves only a dinder ban does not override the law of Shabbos, then it is not logical. I'm so tired. I'm going to cut camera here. That is not logical that slaughtering an animal which involves the biblical malacha should not override the laws of Shabbos. Why do you use that argument? Why do you use this argument to prove that some sprinkling on Shabbos is permitted? The one can just as well it can just as well be used to prove that slaughtering is usher on Shabbos. So Lezer refutes this argument. He says, I'm a lover of Lezer Akiva. Lezer said to Akiva, if you use the argument to prove that slaughtering the Pesach is usher on Shabbos, and you have rooted that which is said in the Torah that the children of Israel should make the Pesach offerings in its appropriate appointed time, in which we learn that the Pesach was brought on the 14th of Nisan, and B'chavan B'Shabbos, which is a weekday or Shabbos. Since we have a clear minhag based on a pasuk, then that the Pesach was brought on Shabbos. Any argument to prove otherwise must be incorrect. Amala, when he said to Lezer, Rabbi Haba li my teacher, give me an appointed time for these preparations must be done. K'day k'moed shchita. Just as there is, just as there is an appointed time for the korban slaughter, and I will then allow these preparations to be done on Shabbos. Only services that must be done at a designated time. The slaughtering of the bus, the slaughtering of. Oh boy, I'm saying bus. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just as there is an appointed time for the offering slaughter, and I will then allow these preparations to be done on Shabbos. Only services that can be done at a time of Shabbos, like slaughtering the korban, can be done. Kalam Rabbi Akiva stated a rule. Shabbos, any work needed for the Pesach offering that is possible to do before Shabbos, and the dochas of Shabbos does not override the laws of Shabbos. Slaughtering the korban, which is impossible to do before Shabbos, since it must be done on Erev Shabbos, on Pesach in the afternoon. Dochas Shabbos, that also overrides the rules of Shabbos. Well, okay. Mishnah Gimel. Amasai may be Chagigima. When does a person bring a Chagiga offering together with the Korban Pesach? Is Manchu B'Bavachol. When the Pesach was brought on a weekday. when their Pesach was a weekday. But Tahara, when the Pesach was brought in purity. Oh, but Mu'at, and it is too small for its meat to sanctify everyone in the group, bringing it. Ideally, eating the meat of a person or a Pesach person should not bring it a fork. Someone who's eating the meat of a Pesach should bring a person bring a person to a feeling of complete satisfaction. Bisman Shehu Baba Shabbos. However, when the Pesach is brought on Shabbos, the Meruba, or is large enough to sanctify everyone in the group, or Tuma, or is brought under conditions of Tuma. And with Chagiga, they do not bring a Chagiga along with it. Okay. Mishnah Dala. Chagiga Haisabah Metzon, the Chagiga may be bought from a small livestock or from cattle. Minha Kvasa, Minha Izim, small livestock means from sheep or from goats. Minha can be brought from one male or female animals, and the chal is associated to Yomayim for and it so when the chal is they may be eaten for 2 days and 1 night after it is makriv. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's according to okay, fine. Mishnah Hey and Vav. We're almost there. Oh boy. Pesach is shachted shlo l'shma b'Shabbos, but the Pesach was shachted on Shabbos with it. Shabbos Pesach not for its own sake. Chayav alav chatas. The daughter must bring, the slaughterer must bring a chatas offering for the son because he had desecrated his little Shabbos. Shara calls Vakuf Shata L'Shum Pesach. In regards to other offerings that a person slaughtered on Shabbos for the sake of a Pesach, the laws as follows: Im Einan Roin Chayiv, if this kind of animal does not fit, to be a Pesach offering, he must bring a chata since he was desecrated Shabbos. However, if they are animals that are fit to be a Pesach offering, the Rebbe says that he must bring a chatas. Yeshua poter, and Yeshua exempts him from chatas. Rebbe said, "Ma even Pesach shehu matzah l'shmo." In the case of a Pesach, which one is permitted to slaughter on Shabbos for its own sake, nevertheless, if a person changed his designation, he must bring a chatas. Then, in the case of other offerings which are forbidden to slaughter on Shabbos, even for their own sake, a person changes their designation and slaughters them for not for their own sake, he should not surely have to be in chatas. Yeshua low. Yeshua said no. This argument came about the Pesach she's not for the usher. The issue say that a person must bring a chatas for slaughtering a korban on Shabbos, or Pesach on Shabbos, not for not for its own on Shabbos, not for its own sake. That's because he intended to change it for something better on Shabbos. We will say that some that we say the same for other offerings, which we intended to change something permitted on Shabbos. Okay. The law of communal offerings will prove that even a person who errs while trying to meet them on the halachos. Um, for communal offerings are allowed to be marked on Shabbos for their own sake. Nevertheless, a person who slaughters a different offering on Shabbos for the sake of one of these communal offerings must bring a chatas, even though he has erred while trying to do a mitzvah. Clearly, a sin done while trying to do a mitzvah is not exempt from chatas. I don't know what Yeshua alone. Yeshua said to him, no. If you say that a person must offer chatas for the sin of bringing other offerings for the sake of communal offerings, that is only because the communal offerings have a set amount. Talmud by Pesach ain't no kitzvah, but will you say the same for the Pesach offerings with no set amount? Then since a large number of Pesachs are brought on Erev Pesach, everyone's preoccupied with their slaughter, and it's easy to make an error in judgment. So Remeir says, "After shochet the shevei murei tzibur pater that even a person who slaughters other offerings on Shabbos for the sake of communal offerings is exempt from a chatas. If even in such a case, he is considered to have erred while trying to do a mitzvah." And the last mission for today, Mishnah Vav, shachtu shlala achla. A person slaughtered a Pesach on Shabbos with intention that be for the sake of those who are not able to eat it, and or for those not registered to it, the Timayin, or for uncircumcised people or tummy people chayiv, he must be in chatas, because such a Pesach is not valid, not kosher, and therefore desecrated Shabbos by slaughtering. However, if you slaughtered it for those who are eager, if you slaughtered it for those who are able to eat it and those who are not fit to eat it, the new for slaughtering it, or to those registered for it, and those that not registered by it. The more for circumcised people and uncircumcised people, to Horan with the man, or for tummy people and Torah people, Pater, he is Pater from the Chatas. Shachtu and Nimsa Balmum Chaif, but if you slaughtered it and it was found to be a blemish and unfit to offer or something, and if he slaughtered it and it was found to be a blemished and unfit to be a korban, he must be nechatas. Shachtu and Nimsa Shreisha Bepeser Pater Seiser. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Unbelievable. Shachtu Nimsa Treifa Seiser Pater. However, if they slaughtered it and it was found to be a treifa from neither defect, he is exempt from chatas, even though the korban is possible. Since it was impossible for they must. Okay, and finally, let's wrap this up. I'm falling asleep here. Shachtu the Noda Mashku Habalim as Yadam, if he slaughtered a Pesach and then found out that all the offerings owners had withdrawn the registration from it before the Shkita, or that the owners had died and became tummy before the Shkita, and the offering is thereby possible. Pater then the Shoichet is Potter from Chadas because he slaughtered it with permission. Okay, I'm not sure if that came out clear. I was falling asleep halfway through. Um, so if you listened, if I said anything that was wrong, I ask for your mechila that I that that be corrected. And maybe you'll laugh when you see this recording because like I don't even know what I was reading half the time when I was couldn't keep my eyes open from the safer. Whoa, okay, over and out. Hopefully do tomorrow's shiur a little bit earlier so I can post it before Shabbos. Ciao.